Before we went to bed, he made the introduction. He told me that this would be his wife too, and he asked us to coexist.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TUKO English, and my name is Yvonne Kawera. Now today I'll tell you a story about Hannah Wanjiku. Now after completing her primary education, she went to look for work as a housemaid in Murang'a, and her siblings were left under the care of her mother. Her work demanded that she speaks English to these little kids, and Hannah was not conversant with this language. She was struggling with this. So after 2 months of struggling, she decided to quit this job and go back to her mother's house. Now at this point, Hannah realizes that she has a passion for music. She was living with her mom in a small space where they were all sharing a bed. As she left her market errands, she would find a crusade happening just nearby where they lived, and it was a bishop marketing his songs.
Every day after work, when I left Marikiti Market, I would camp outside the crusade for more than 4 hours, just watching them. Every single day, I would do this because of my love for the music.
So one day, a girl spotted Hannah just listening and getting entertained by this music, and she asked her if she wanted a job with this team just to market their music. And Hannah was more than ready and willing to take up this opportunity because she was looking for a job.
So she introduced me to the bishop. She took me to his office that was based at Simba Center. I actually met him on the stairway to his office, and he recognized me. And I told him that I was ready to start working any day, and that's how I got my job.
They would travel to different towns in the country to just market this music. One day they went out of town to work as a team. This is what happened when they left the town.
It was a team of 3 people: the bishop, a young man whose job was to handle the sound system, and myself. The bishop would book a lodging for us to spend the night and pay for each one of us separately. And on the first day, even on the second day, but on the third day, something changed. The day we went to book the hotel, we were only told that only 2 rooms were remaining. Everything else had been booked. The 2 rooms that were remaining, one had 2 beds and the other had 1 bed. And so the bishop decided to book the one that had 2 beds for the both of us and the one that was a single room for the young man. So when he suggested this, I was not worried or alarmed by this. And when he decided to shower, I left the room for him and walked out. Even when I returned, I switched off the lights because I did not want to find him unprepared.
So the two slept in separate beds. But around midnight, something strange happened. She heard some movement in this room. She woke up to the sight of the bishop walking to her bed.
He told me, "Shiko, the Lord has spoken to me and said that you have been chosen to become the wife of the bishop." And by the time he was finishing saying this, he was already in my bed. I was shocked. I couldn't resist because I was afraid of him. At this point, he was 49 years. I couldn't sleep that night. The following day, he decided that we would spend the night in bed all day, just sleeping together over and over and over again. Of course, I was afraid of him. At this point, I actually got pregnant, but I did not know that I was pregnant.
So the team returned to Nairobi, and Hannah, instead of going back to her home, she went to the bishop's home. And at night, she chose to sleep on the couch. He asked her to not leave and instead gave her some instructions to clean the house and cook for him. It is at this point that Hannah discovers that her husband had married several other women before her. She was the 6th woman and currently pregnant.
You know, a man can marry you, and if he's a narcissistic dictator, he will brainwash you. And this is what happened to me. I quickly found out that I was deep into a cult, his cult. We were not allowed to go to the hospital, use family planning, or go for any sort of treatment. I have given birth to my children, all 4 of them, in his house.
By the 3rd year, he brought yet another woman. But this time, this woman came with a set of clothes, which meant that the 2 were to stay together. That night, she prepared dinner for this woman and her husband, and she thought that, as per the arrangement, she would sleep on the couch and the man and his visitor would share the bed. But that was not to be.
Before we went to bed, he made the introduction. He told me that this would be his wife too, and he asked us to coexist.
The three of them then shared the bed. And this is where it gets even more interesting, because the man had come up with a timetable for each of his wives, all down to the day and the time.
When it's your shifts, at the exact time you're supposed to be in bed, and if the bishop is sleeping, you should wake him up. He got us pregnant almost the same time on that bed that we shared, the three of us. So when the time for delivery came, my co-wife went into labor, and she was so unwell that I had to secretly rush her to the hospital. She gave birth, but after giving birth, she lost her mind.
Hannah took care of the co-wife's baby while she was admitted in a mental hospital. She would stick by her husband in all this, but the end was slowly drawing closer.
So one day I got recurring infections and decided to get checked at the hospital, secretly of course. But hubby found out and forced me to dig up a dustbin full of used pads to find my own, take them to the hospital for them to be tested for spams, because he said that I had gone to sleep with people pretending to go to the hospital. So imagine carrying a dirty pad to the hospital. Of course, nothing was found in that pad, but my husband, instead of believing the doctor, then accused the doctor of sleeping with me.
And so from that day, she started saving 10 shillings each day, planning her exit slowly and secretly. And the end of the marriage was to be a year ahead. She knew that after 1 year, she would have saved a little amount that would help her start life in a small way, but a manageable and peaceful way. And when she was ready, Hannah walked out of her marriage with her 4 children and 3,600 shillings in coins. Of course, the man reached out, trying to win her back, promising to change, promising to get things better for her, even set up a business, but she refused, and so he gave up. She currently hustles to feed her 4 children who are now in school and entirely depend on her for literally everything. She still struggles to come to terms with the reality of what she went through in that nightmare of a marriage. Now, friends, that is the story of Hannah. It was fun hanging out with you all. See you next time. My name is Yvonne Kawera, and this is TUKO English.